what I was trying to figure out, if they were comparable or not.
Ready? So you have the staff review that I presented that you got about a week or so ago, and then you have a memo that I also sent on Friday and tried to encapsulate all of the public comments that we'd received to that point in time. And today we've received, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 or so additional comments that Chair Peterson will address probably during public comment. It's important to know that this staff person did not read any of those comments today because there aren't enough hours in the day to do that. So this was staff reviews. This is a recap of all of that information through Friday of last week. So standards 1 and 2 are pretty much addressed throughout the analysis that was provided. As the applicant has said, Avondale Irrigation District provided a will serve letter to serve the project on May 3rd. And Northern Lakes Fire Protection District provided comments for construction on May 24th. Related to sewer, the will serve letter was provided by the City of Hayden on May 28th. The gravity sewer main that is internal to the project shall be connected to the main in Finucane Drive, as Mr. McCarthy identified. In addition, the developer shall construct that oversized sewer line to the project's northern property boundary, which is, as you've heard many times before, resolves a solution to a rather difficult situation with sewer capacity. 3C and 3D talk about snow storage and stormwater. And so stormwater and snow storage shall be reviewed at the time of construction plan review in accordance with Title 8. Title 8 talks all about stormwater on site and how you have to maintain all of your stormwater within your project boundaries, which has been identified.
Donna, yeah, I guess before we move off of this, I guess in your review and the city engineer review so far, does anybody know of any problems with stormwater or snow storage?
No.
Okay.
Related to the provisions have been made for streets that are consistent with the adopted transportation plan as amended. The transportation element of the adopted comprehensive plan is amended. And then the cul-de-sac question, if it's 400 feet or longer. So we had really good public comments that came in. Staff likes to read comments that come in that direct you toward various documents, and it shows that people have gone the extra mile when they presented their documents, and so that's really helpful for us. And so we did go back and do some footwork, as was presented in the additional memo to the Planning and Zoning Commission, as well as talk to our transportation consultant to verify that this property was indeed part of that area that was anticipated to redevelop and that it had been calculated in the transportation plan. It had. The 53 homes, we have a traffic study, kind of a number that you look at for every project that comes in the door, and if it meets, if it exceeds that 75 peak hour trips, then they have to do a traffic study, and this one did not. So it didn't even look toward that traffic study. But then again, if you, come back to that, but I kind of got my slides a little quirky, but that Maple Street frontage question runs right into the middle of that traffic. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of traffic, and we all would concur. I don't think anybody on staff would disagree with the fact that Maple Street is too narrow, and that Maple Street probably should have some pedestrian facilities attached to it. I don't think there's any person in this room that would probably disagree with that sentence. But this project doesn't trip any of those kinds of concerns. Melissa, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't. And when we saw the public comments coming in, with that, she's right. We did reach out to our consultant that our transportation plan and talked through what was envisioned and what was modeled, and what they're proposing is really consistent with what we anticipated on this property.
Okay.
Donna?
Yes.
What's the gate to the school site? Where is that located?
So part of my concern is that as a parent, and I have 2 kids, and for those of you that aren't aware, I've taught school for 8 years, so I have a really large heart for getting students to and from school. As a young person in elementary school, I actually walked a mile back and forth to school, and I did cross a roadway that was 4 lanes wide. It scared the bejeebers out of me. So I have a heart for that, and one of the things that I reached out to Melissa, and we've talked with the school district, and I wouldn't want my kids walking up and down Maple Street to get to the school, but furthermore, I don't think the kids are gonna walk toward Maple because it's farther away than the school is. They're gonna really go east and north, but truly in that northern portion of the project site, let's get real, this easement across the sewer line butts up against the school district property, and it makes some rather logical kind of conversation that the students that are at least from this site should be able to get from this site to the school through that kind of access point. So the school district did provide a letter that they had requested a gate, and so we're still kind of trying to work through that. I mean, justifiably, their safety of the students that are on the school grounds are of utmost importance, and so they need to kind of work through their processes to make sure that works.
Right.
But we have been reaching out to them to try to have that as a solution to keep those kids off of Maple. So that is part of that conversation. All right. We've been all over the dedication of the right-of-way and the granting of easements, and you've kind of seen that piece that shows that it really is just pieces of sidewalk. It doesn't get you where you need to be.
I have a question about that.
We agree with you.
I apologize if I'm dense here, but the developer purchasing the frontage in front of Maple Street, was that required because to the east, it meets the north-south? In other words, I guess what I understand is if the development only barely touches Maple a tiny little bit, why did they purchase the frontage above and below it?
Well, 2 reasons. The first one is that they were part of a boundary line adjustment with 3 properties, and the city code requires that if any one of those 3 properties are to develop, then all of the frontage improvements for all 3 properties that were part of the original BLA would need to be required to be constructed. And so these other 2 properties, this one and this one, not that one,
Right.
this one and this one, because they were part of the boundary line adjustment, and the 3rd property, which is this one, develops, then they should have been required to do that frontage improvements. But the city is identifying that kind of trade-off
Thank you.
between the sewer and the
I
sidewalks to
understand the sewer
nowhere.
part, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Okay. So then in those public comments in that memo that I sent out to you, we had 3 neutral, 11 opposed, and safety on Maple Street was the most common concern. We talked about the project it's not anticipated to generate more than those 75 trips. And, I misspelled that word. I suppose I could really go all the way to slideshow. And it's confirmed that with the traffic consultant, that this was an area that was anticipated to redevelop. So just in that memo that was provided, we were kind of doing the difference between, in fact, one of the comments that came back that was attached to the memo commented on how much use that area behind the school currently has. And although we all find it, and we all have grown very accustomed to it being a soccer field and what have you, the school chose for reasons that are not part of us to sell it, and a private property owner now purchased it and wants to develop it. But it changed use. It changed use from 6 fields that had soccer and various activities on them, and using the ITE manual that estimates 16.43 trips in the peak hour per soccer field, or 99 trips that would have gone all out onto Finucane, versus the 26 vehicles in the peak hour on both Maple and on Finucane, which is actually less than the 99. So it's even with the redevelopment, the density's in line with the assumptions. the change of use could likely be an overall decrease in the overall traffic for the area.
And then, just to put it kind of in perspective, did we say it's about 26
Mhm.
on each? That's a trip every 2 to 3 minutes in the peak hour. So just to kind of give that a little perspective on how much extra traffic it might be. That's over, you know, just a vacant piece of land, not taking into consideration that it was a soccer field that also generated quite a bit of traffic. Does that make sense?
So the street requirements and landscaping, internal streets shall be constructed to that ST 111 and 111A. They'll have type 2, which is now type 4, street frontage installed at the time of building permits. The area that Mr. MacArthur was talking about that had some additional street tree frontage, additional landscaping, is that Country Squire Lane, for this little piece right up here, is still public street, and that is still public street frontage for that lot. So there will be trees that are required back there adjacent to that. And then there are trees that are required here in that little leg out that goes out to Maple on both sides that don't have currently lots within the subdivision, but they will still be required to have street trees as well, and swales, etc. Sorry about the going back and forth. Apologize for that. So the landscaping associated with the green space tracts or joint stormwater swale shall be constructed and required as part of the subdivision phase, or if we're gonna do the whole subdivision. We always kind of think, you know, that there might be the possibility that they get one side done and they wanna plat it ahead of the other side. So we kind of always, they're proposing it as a single phase, so we're gonna treat it that way, but we kind of always think that it might happen. And that irrigation shall be the responsibility of the property owner, but any structural maintenance shall be the responsibility of the property owners association. So we talked about that connectivity to the school may be provided through a gate on the south side of the school property at the location of the future sewer line to the north boundary of the project site. And then, as Mr. MacArthur noted, the geohazard stabilization measure shall be addressed at the time of construction plan review, and all utilities that are required to be underground within the subdivision development. So the final location of driveways shall be reviewed by the city to address conflicts with utility and snow storage locations. No lot shall have any form of access onto North Maple Street or North Ash Street or West Country Squire Lane. Those lots with frontage on 2 internal streets, they're double loaded lots, may have access on each street for a total of 2 accesses. However, all the primary access points shall be facing on the same street. So we want all the fronts of the houses pointed the same direction and the shops or the back ends pointed the same direction. And the mailbox locations shall be determined based on the US Postal Service and the City of Hayden requirements. So just really briefly, this is Ash Street. It is a loop. So what we're saying is that these 3 properties who butt up against Ash Street will not have access from Ash Street. And we're saying that this person can't have access from Country Squire Lane. And then there was some question down here about Mill. And so as you're a snowplow and you're coming around Secretariat, all the way around Secretariat to the end over here, you're pushing snow, you're gonna push snow all the way to the end. And so there is some, there's a condition in the conditions that identifies that until that street goes through to the south, that there can't be any access points on that because the snow storage is gonna be pushed that direction. And then there was a comment about paved turnarounds, and that's pretty much just general language that we leave on any subdivision that has the potential of, you know, say they only do this portion first, not that they're proposing that, because they're not, but say that that happens, then they could put a turnaround here until the following spring when they can get things going again. So that's what that turnaround point talks about. And we could wordsmith it a bit so that it's more clear if it's not, so I apologize for that. Okay, so number 7 says, is the area proposed for the subdivision, is it zoned for the proposed use? And it is in a sea of yellow. So everything around it is residential, single family or single family residential. And the code for that, for the city code, says that this provides for classic Hayden neighborhood where single family homes on smaller lots are permitted. Accessory dwelling units are permitted, but 2-family dwellings are not. So part of the comments that came through was that these are really small lots and that the density was really high. And so Shannon did kind of we have some photos, some aerials that pull out these same subdivisions. As she was pulling them out, I kept thinking, gosh, I knew Hayden Meadows was familiar.
Can you, make it so it's a slideshow, so it's?
Oh, did I do it again? Sorry about that. There you go. Hayden Meadows is where Ash Street comes in. It was platted before I got hired at the city. That's probably why I can't remember that name. So they're actually gonna rename it. It's either gonna be Hayden Meadows First Edition, or they're gonna call it a new name, right? Yeah. Okay, so Hayden Meadows directly to the west of the project has 27 dwelling units in it. It's 3.66 dwelling units per acre, and their minimum lot size is 10,497 feet. Maximum is 13,000, which gives their average lot size at about 11. Finucane Estates was immediately to the east, has about 51 dwelling units, 2.85 dwelling units per acre, with a minimum lot size of about 11,400, a maximum lot size of nearly half an acre, and an average lot size of about 15,000 square feet. Maple Place, which is kind of southwest, has 20 dwelling units in the subdivision with dwelling units per acre of 3.38, minimum lot size of about 10,000 square feet with a maximum of 14,000 square feet, and an average lot size of about 12,800. Woodland Meadows, which is a little bit further to the south, has 233 dwelling units with a dwelling unit per acre of 3.79. Their minimum lot size is 8,250 square feet. Their maximum lot size is a 20,000 square foot lot, and their average lot size is about 11,000. And then Castlewood Court, which is farther to the east, kind of the northeast of this project, is 52 dwelling units, a dwelling unit per acre of 4.22, minimum lot size of just a little over 8,500, maximum lot size of 16,000, and an average lot size of 10,367. And this project is proposed to be 53 dwelling units, 3.32 dwelling units per acre, 8,250, which is the minimum lot size. The maximum lot is 15,028, and their average lot size is 9,900. So, as the crow flies, this is Ash, at 27 and 3.66. This is Finucane, 51 with 2.85. Maple Place, with that 20 and 3.38. Woodland Meadows, 233 with 3.79. Castlewood Court, 52 and 4.22. That's all of those. Did the comprehensive plan analysis, and we did the staff review a little differently this time. And so we have an appendix with all of the stuff that's pretty much general throughout all of the analysis, and attached the comprehensive plans, goals, policies, and actions to that, so you have the whole of all of them, because you might find ones that you think pertain more than I did. So you've got it all there available to you. So these are the goals, the policies, and the actions that we pulled out in the staff review that we felt were applicable. And condition number 8 says that has the developer made adequate plans to ensure the community doesn't have to pay more than its fair share. So all on-site and off-site improvements shall be required of the developer, extension of the infrastructure per the adopted city code standards and plans, and then those mitigating improvements that we discussed earlier, sewer and frontage improvements. So we noticed 20 agencies and we heard back from 5. Avondale Irrigation District didn't have any comments. Coeur d'Alene Plain School District had a really, a good letter with comments related to the impact on their existing school, which were comments that we heard from part of the public as well. They also commented on where they anticipated more growth will be occurring. And they requested access to the rear of the school site through the subdivision in that same location that we requested a gate to go in as well. So I think that's a possible solution. The Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board didn't have any comments. Northern Lakes Fire Protection District had comments related to the construction of the subdivision. Coeur d'Alene Airport didn't have comments. And again, we attached those public comments on Friday to Board Book with the memo. We identified 3 that were neutral. They kind of talked about safety on Maple Street, both motorized and non-motorized. We had one that was a request for a cyclone fence with privacy slats. That's along the southern portion of the property. There was a request for a flashing stop sign at Maple Street and Honeysuckle Avenue. There were 11 that were opposed. Most of those were safety and traffic on Maple Street. Again, they thought it was too dense. They thought it would change the character. They're concerned about police protection. It's important to note here that the Kootenai County Sheriff's Office is one of the agencies that is sent comments for every single land use action that the city has, and they have opportunity to comment, as do the other agencies. We did not receive a comment from them. Police protection, person was concerned about her taxes being raised and the sewer bills would go up. And then obviously the concern that there was a loss of the soccer field and loss of the green space. So the staff recommended conditions of approval begin on page 9 of the staff review, and I have summarized them here. There are 3 general conditions of approval. Dedications and easements shall be on the plat, joint stormwater requirements, easements, and maintenance of that joint stormwater area. Permits from outside agencies are required with every subdivision before it goes through its completion. Panhandle Health District, Idaho Department of Environmental Quality, Avondale Irrigation District, and Northern Lakes Fire Protection District are definitely part of the 4 that have to give it their check off. And any approval with the master development agreement runs with the land, whether the ownership changes or not. Then the access conditions of approval, that no lot shall have access to North Maple Street, North Ash, or East Country Square Lane. No approaches on the south end of Mills Drive to address that snow storage concern. We talked about the double loaded lots, and then they have access off of both, but they have to be all facing the same way. And then the final location of all driveways, all addresses shall be approved by the city as well. Part of that has to do with streets, because I said Secretariat would continue on. There's way too many street names in that subdivision, so it'll get winnie down to like 3, I think. So the construction plan submittal shall include internal streets to an ST 111 and 111A typical section. Those paved turnarounds as that might be continued later on that we talked about previously. The erosion control measures, sewer according to the city's plans and that oversized sewer main to the north boundary. Concurrence from the U.S. Postal Service regarding mailbox locations. That dry grass mix shall be applied until the individual lots are constructed and installation of landscaping requirements are met. Swale construction, irrigation, maintenance, and street frontage landscaping requirements.
Donna, before we move on, I guess the applicant had a problem with 5B.
Yep.
And I guess the text of what staff is proposing for conditions is a paved turnaround approach by the Northern Lakes Fire Protection District, and the city shall be provided until the road is completed to the south and where the internal street shall be completed as part of future development. I believe that the applicant said that they moved that street down closer to that, and because of that, there's a hammerhead now, and he says there isn't a requirement or a need for a paved turnaround.
That's correct.
Do you agree with that?
I would concur.
So I guess if we were to, it sounds like you would not have a big issue if we were to take 5B out of any conditions we recommended or not.
Correct.
Okay.
Sanitary sewer oversizing mitigation, the developer could request reimbursement to oversize those sewer lines. However, the developer has requested that the construction of frontage improvements on Maple Street be waived instead, still dedicating the right-of-way, dedicating the right-of-way and granting of the easement, just not the construction. So their 50-foot sewer easement shall be provided for the 18-inch sewer line from Secretariat Lane to the north boundary of the subdivision in accordance with the sewer policies, and a minimum of a 16-foot gravel access centered on the sewer main and a 50-foot easement. So Mr. MacArthur identified the gravel versus the paved. We just wanted to make sure in the analysis that everybody was aware that it can be a 16-inch gravel that meets the sewer policies today, but when that house in the corner gets built, he has to have a paved driveway to his house, and that's a requirement of the building code. So it's just two different kind of timing things, and we totally concur with his assessment of that.
So is it written correctly in your condition of approval, or does it need to be amended?
No, it's written correctly. And then I have the standards of approval without all of the analysis and stuff in there, if you wanna go back to any specific standard of approval. So the Planning and Zoning Commission may recommend approval with conditions, or denial of the subdivision request to the City Council.
Okay, are there any questions of